Project Playtime just revealed tons of new stuff with a new VHS tape, tons of hidden lore throughout the game, possibly the main character's name revealed, and even some nods to future updates and possibly a new main antagonist for Chapter 3. Like the video if you're excited, but let's just get right into it. So Poppy Playtime's spin-off title, Project Playtime, recently got an update revealing to us a new location in the game called Destroy a Toy, which is an area used to, of course, destroy toys and incinerate them in a cool steampunk theme. However, while the map itself is super fun, with this brand new release, we also got a ton of lore. As if you need a refresher, back in December when Project Playtime first released, we got a hidden VHS 1 tape that told us the story about a new character named Harley Sawyer, or the Doctor, pitching the idea of the Bigger Bodies Initiative, a toy program where they used human beings, turned them into big toys like Huggy, and then gave them jobs around the factory to save money and avoid suspicion. Now, when the tape ended, initially we were interrupted by a mysterious text on the screen that began to communicate with us, saying things like, the Bigger Bodies Initiative will fail, and they tell us in this text that they were going to send us a gift of some sorts before the tape abruptly ends. However, that was last December, and with this brand new season, we were given a new VHS tape titled VHS 2 respectively, where this time the tape starts with an employee addressing the previous Harley Sawyer saying, Dr. Sawyer, where he replies, I wish to see him. Of course, he's just... We hear a mysterious monster roar. Ah, and there you are, talking to the monster. They said it was impossible, yet you defied all odds. The first of many. Naturally, you have proven my Bigger Bodies Initiative a success. Many doors have opened today, thanks to you. Now we need to start tailoring that appetite of yours to flesh. Where to start? Then he redirects himself to the employee again, saying, get me an update on the situation with Rowan Stoll. Before a loud phone ring gets Harley's attention, before he suddenly, after seeing something, gets very angry, saying, where the tape would abruptly end. Now, to break this tape down, it sounds like Harley Sawyer was discussing with an employee the creation of some sort of monster that we hear him talking to and praising throughout the tape, but what kind of monster is it? Well, it's actually relatively obvious to tell, because during the tape, we can actually see an arm of Boxy show up as a visual, and after the monster roars in the tape, we can actually hear his iconic crank sound heard on many other different occasions. So clearly, it seems like the monster in this tape is Boxy Boo, but then why is he here? Well, as Sawyer says in this tape, he states that Boxy Boo was said to be impossible, and yet he defied all odds, and was the first of many, proving his Bigger Bodies Initiative a success. Or in other words, Boxy Boo, according to this tape, appears to be the first large toy ever created in the Bigger Bodies Initiative, and he was used as a test run by Harley to prove and see if creating these little toys from the factory into life-size beings would be a success, and judged by his excitement in the tape, it seems to be a massive one. But then this still brings up the question, why did he actually want to create Boxy Boo? Because after all, if the Bigger Bodies Initiative was meant to give these monsters a job, what was Boxy's? Well, as I've theorized in other videos, last November when we had the Poppy Playtime ARG, we learned about the mysterious character Rowan Stoll, who was one of the first employees to find out about the monster's existence in the factory and even documented them in his own VHS tapes, and in the end would end up getting killed off after finding out by none other than Boxy Boo himself after writing this letter explaining that apparently people in the factory were going to try and kill him, which originally back then led me to believe that something or somebody knew about Rowan Stoll's wrongdoings and used Boxy Boo to silence him before he could tell anybody else about the secrets they were hiding. And this brand new tape actually confirms this theory, as after complimenting Boxy Boo and his creation, the next thing that Harley Sawyer says is, give me an update on the Rowan Stoll situation, most likely referring to the situation from the ARG where Rowan started talking about the hidden experiments. And then he also says to Boxy that he needs to start tailoring that appetite of yours to flesh, confirming to us that Boxy Boo was literally designed to eat people, and not just any people, but people like Rowan Stoll who talked out against the factory in his own tapes previously. And now that we know this information, when watching Rowan Stoll's death clip, it's clear that it wasn't some sort of accident or an attack, but rather Rowan being eaten by Boxy Boo was 100% premeditated by none none other than the doctor himself. Which, while this is cool and all, right before the tape ends and a phone rings, Harley says, "Who is that? Turn off the camera now," showing that there was somebody there taking a video of Harley Sawyer and the rest of the crew making Boxy Boo, hence how we have this second VHS tape in the first place. But who was the person recording this tape that Harley saw? Well, after the tape ends, another new voice begins to talk to the player, continuing off the first VHS saying, "Can you hear us? Can you see this? Welcome back. Your gift has finally arrived. You may have noticed it. It is the phone. We are working to establish a secure line. You will be called when the time arrives." That is all. Then after a few seconds pass, they say, "Why are you still here? We understand you desire answers. They will come in time with trust. You wonder who we are, but why? You should know it was your doing that made us. We will be in touch. Goodbye." So for starters, in the room of the VHS tape, we can now see that there is a brand new interactable phone that we could pick up, and although it looks creepy, as they said, for now it doesn't actually do anything. However, what's interesting about this response is that the person talking in the tapes tells us that it was your doing that made us. What do they mean by that? Well, I think this most likely establishes that the person or people talking to us in the VHS tapes are most likely some sort of lost orphans or toys made inside of the factory. Since for starters, we know that we as players play as a former employee of the factory, and of course the company is heavily theorized to have been turning the children from their orphan program into these beings for the Bigger Bodies initiative, hence why it would technically be our fault. However, while the toys or orphans of course seem upset with our association with the company, they also seem to somehow be on our side, as they send us gifts like this phone and these secret VHS tapes proving that the Bigger Bodies initiative was real. And once again, looking at the first tape, they even said in their own words that the Bigger Bodies initiative will fail, which shows that their motive and intentions with speaking to us is to somehow take down this initiative, which was responsible for turning all these people into toys. We even see a bit of a metaphor to this whole idea as well in the actual game, where we could see a poster showing a bunch of stuffed animals walking towards a play care sign, and the poster was captioned, "Take every step like it's your last," possibly symbolizing the young children walking towards their inevitable doom at this new location that we are yet to see any pieces of up until this point. Also, something I saw other people mention in their own theories like Terrico is that in the tape it actually cuts off before the person talking to us can say goodbye, only ever spelling out GOODBY both in the first and second tape before cutting out. However, while some people put this up to some sort of spelling error or glitch, what makes this interesting is that it's possible that instead of saying goodbye, the people talking to us could have actually instead be using our name. More specifically, the name Goodby, spelled in the same exact way, is actually a last name often used in real life to describe people. So perhaps instead, maybe the cutoff was intentional, and this could be our first clue into the actual name of the player we play as. Since of course up until this point in both Project Playtime and Poppy Playtime, we are described as yellow people and nothing else. But overall, it sounds like the story of the factory is that they got a bunch of children into this play care location we are yet to explore, and somehow they turned them into a bunch of toys for the Bigger Bodies initiative, while also creating toys like Boxy Boo to eat anybody and hide the evidence in case anybody tried to speak out against the factory. It seems pretty simple. However, things go a lot deeper than this, since as we've already established, the children being turned into toys seems to be a bad thing. They are turned into these vile beasts who are basically forced to work in the factory as some sort of almost slave. It's clearly stated to us that becoming a toy is a bad thing. However, what's interesting is that backtracking into last month, where we got the Bron the Dinosaur Chapter 3 tape, we could see a video of them turning another employee who had terminal cancer into a little Bron the Dinosaur to see what would happen. And while this experiment would end up failing and the employee was barely responsive, this shows us that there actually could be some unique benefits to becoming a toy as well. For example, when they turn the terminally ill employee into one of these toys, because he becomes a toy, he is cured from his cancer diagnosis, and based on how other toys work in Playtime Co, he should hypothetically never be able to die, since of course he's a toy, and unless you break a toy, they last forever. We also saw characters like Stella Graber in the first chapter talk about how badly they wanted to be a child again, and how they hated that human bodies just didn't last forever, suggesting maybe some of these employees like the Bron the Dinosaur guy and Stella wanted to be turned into toys and wanted to forever stay young. In fact, this is expanded upon a lot more in Project Playtime, as with the game's release, a brand new trailer was also released where we can hear none other than the Doctor, or Harley Sawyer, commentate over the trailer saying, "Mortality is the curse of the weak. The fire that incinerates the flesh. I strive to snuff that flame. Call me a monster, but I am simply a man who escaped from incineration and embraced the infinite. While we also see some shots of Huggy falling into a burning pit. See, in this tape, we once again hear the doctor this time discuss his fear of death, calling mortality a curse of the weak or a fire that incinerates the flesh. And then he goes on saying, I am simply a man who escaped from incineration and embraced the infinite. Or in other words, Harley somehow, based on this dialogue, was able to escape death and infinitely live on forever. We can even see in the trailer visuals of a Huggy Wuggy getting dragged towards a fiery pit, which is meant to be a metaphor for how human beings eventually die when they reach the end of their lifespan. And of course, death is personified by having Huggy Wuggy get incinerated, which means that the name Project Playtime Incineration and the Destroy a Toy Factory as a whole is actually a metaphor for death. And somehow Harley Sawyer escaped this incineration in question. How, you may ask? Somehow Harley Sawyer, like the other employees around the factory, not only created the Bigger Bodies Initiative and made Boxy Boo, Huggy Wuggy, and more, but he also seemingly turned himself into a toy with the goal of living forever and to, as he says, snuff the flame, that of which being the flame of life and aging. It's really a dark theme when you think about it. And now that this proves to us that different employees can also become toys to live forever, this brings back older theories like that Elliot Ludwig is the prototype or many, many more. However, the last question and probably most important that I have is, which toy did the mysterious Harley Sawyer turn himself into? Well, I don't want to make any guesses. I mean, he can't really be the prototype because the prototype tries to fight against the factory. However, with all the stuff that we have heard from this doctor character, to be honest, I'm pretty confident that he's probably going to be a brand new toy, most likely showing up in chapter 3 as the new enemy. I mean, it only makes sense. We had Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, and now we are entering the play care hearing about the literal creator of the toys. And I think it makes more sense than ever to go in and fight against Harley or some of his creations and to hopefully find out all that happened in the play care. But I guess for now, we'll just have to wait. Let me know your thoughts on this theory down below. There are tons of more Project Playtime secrets hiding for chapter 3. I'm working on another video as we speak, but subscribe for that and more, and peace.